Hello, everybody. So I'm Dace Resele from Northern Dimension Partnership on Culture. So actually, I'm happy to see you here within this framework of the Cross-Innovation Conference, and I'm happy to have this opportunity to be here and to share our experience. Actually, a few words for those who don't know what is Northern Dimension Partnership on Culture. So it is a multilateral cooperation structure, and it is one of 4 thematic partnerships within the Northern Dimension joint policy between European Union, Nordic Baltic Sea, EU countries, and Russia, Norway, and Iceland. So NDPC looks at enhancing the cross-sectoral innovation and collaboration in the region between the cultural creative industry stakeholders and identifying and filling the gaps when it comes to policy, funding, providing capacity building, and opportunities for networking and knowledge exchange of the CCI stakeholders. So, and our today's topic will be framed by the study. Actually, and this study is on cross-sectoral cooperation in the Northern Dimension region, and the study is financed, as you see, by European Commission. And actually, we hope a lot that with the help of the study, we will contribute to the sector development in Northern Dimension area. And this study could reflect what kind of tools, approaches can be used to enhance this cooperation. So, and I'm happy to see here Petya Koleva, who is the key expert of the study, and Terry Sandell, who is the team leader. And our speakers here, Anna Gudmundsdottir, who is project manager at Spot Project, and Katya Zatuliveter, social entrepreneur, founder, and CEO at Altruism. So happy to be with you here, and I give the screen to Terry Sandell and Petya Koleva, please.
Well, first of all, welcome to everybody. As has been explained, we're working on a project which will finish in late February. It's been a very interesting project. It's basically looking at the whole area of the cultural and creative industries, cooperation with other sectors, and in particular cross-innovation. Amongst other things, we're just about to launch a website where we're actually highlighting our findings, which include 121 case studies from the 11 countries in the region. But just very quickly, the project's components include mapping practices, opportunities and policies, case study research of cross-sectoral cooperation and innovation in the 11 countries. And as I've just said, there'll be 121 projects covered in that particular area. We're producing 4 thematic workshops, focus group events. We've had some very enjoyable and interesting and productive experts focus groups on particular topics. Our next one is going to be on serious games and gamification. And if any of those who are part of this session are interested, then you're very welcome to come along to that, or, well, switch into that, let's say. We're also producing 4 policy development briefs. We've produced 3 of them already, and they will be on the website. They're also available elsewhere. There's also been publications, and then a wrap-up event, publication of the project findings, and we're, as part of the website and other things, wanting to make the findings of the project as widely distributed as possible And indeed, we think they'll have at least a 2-year lifespan, and that's the reason for the website. I'm now going to hand over to Petya, who, as you heard, is the key expert on this.
Hello from me. So as you can see, indeed, we have had the ambition to cover as much as possible from primary sources, what is happening on the ground, bottom up, as well as consulting experts and practitioners, policymakers too. This is more or less what is the distribution of cases per country. But I would like to suggest that we don't look at the numbers, because the quality of cases varies, also because secondary sources are included. And in some countries, we made particular effort to get more feedback, but several circumstances, including COVID and online questionnaires and other things going on, have impeded us. Nevertheless, we are quite happy that we have had very positive feedback on the findings. And here on this slide, you can see we expanded the scale, looking also for in-depth insights. So we started with a survey online, then we distributed a structured case template to over 350 people, and we held in-depth interviews with 23. As a result, we have quite a number of inspiring cases, and 3 of those people are here with us. So I suggest I don't say much more, but just to give you a feeling and anticipation of what's coming up. Terry, are you indicating something? Sorry.
No, I'm not.
We have held, as Terry mentioned, we have held 3 focus group events online with experts, and we have thematically organized them. Therefore, our cases and the analysis also goes along those 3 broad themes of initiatives that are fostering cross-sectoral connectivity. And here in this group, we have a number of hubs, incubators, and international platforms, including regional ones, including participation of more than 2, sometimes even 8, 9 partners. Then we have a big, large group of cases which are innovating traditional industries. And the final one, a very interesting group, is the one addressing the well-being agenda. All those different cases are being analyzed, and you will see among them there are quite a number of businesses, as well as several very fresh initiatives linked to policy that stimulates cross-sectoral cooperation. This is all from me. I would like to give now the floor to Anna from SPOC, and welcome, Anna.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. So I'm going to share my screen, I think. So I work with an initiative called SPOC, which focuses on local production. So just to give you a short introduction to what we do, this initiative was founded by the industrial designer Jenny Nordberg, who has been working from her own practice, with her own practice, own design studio for over 15 years now. And the initial idea was that as a small company, she found it hard to find local manufacturers to produce the products that she was designing, to collaborate with in the close region. So that's what started off SPOC, which is a platform that lists local manufacturers so that architects, designers, creative industries and companies can more easily find collaborators locally to produce products. So SPOC stands for Contemporary Production and Consumption. And initially, in the first 4 years, we were funded by the city of Malmö, the region of Skåne, and some parts was founded by the county administrative board. And the owner of the project is was and still is Former Design Center, which is a physical place in Malmö where we have exhibitions, seminars. It's like a node for architecture, design, and craft in southern Sweden. So this is where the initiative lives right now and has done for the last 2 years. Okay. For some reason.
Maybe in the meantime, I can ask a question that we prepared for you for this session. And if you could describe a little bit how your initiative came to be a national scale initiative. At which point did you manage to make this turnover?
Well, after we had been active for 4 years. I'm just going to go through, now it seems to be working again. So I'm just going to go through the background a little bit fast to get to the questions that you are interested in. So in southern Sweden, there is a big community of local designers, and there is a lot of a feeling of sharing experiences with each other, which was sort of the fundament of this initiative, which is initially about sharing knowledge and sharing access. And it's also working towards sustainable development, in that it's about local production and in the end also more local consumption and more sustainable consumption. And it's about backshoring industries, which is a big issue for Sweden, or a big initiative for Sweden right now, that we see that producing products in Asia is not as economically feasible as we once thought it was. And it's also about just showing that in Sweden, even though we don't believe it, there is a lot of manufacturers here, and we need to preserve that knowledge in order for industry to thrive nationally and also to create local enterprise. So this is the website. I'm not going to show it to you now, but it is available in English, so you can investigate that on your own. And this is the region of Skåne where the initiative was first. And as you can see, there's a big variation of companies all over the region, from the cities. Of course, they cluster to the cities, but also a lot in the rural areas. And a lot of people are surprised that there are so many industries. And by industries, we include both crafts to large industries. So anybody that can produce something for someone else. And now, with the help from...
Yeah, Anna, sorry, I don't see any map here. I think this is frozen, your presentation.
How about now?
Yes,
Yes.
working.
Okay, good. So if for those of you who missed, this was the map of the southern region and where we have located local industries. And now, can you see it now still?
You see the map?
Maybe you can...
Yes, now it's working. It's working.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try and just switch quickly and just share my whole screen, my whole desktop. Sometimes that works better. There you go. Does it work now?
Yes, at the moment it works. Yeah, super.
Okay. So we got funding from the Swedish Agency for Economical and Regional Growth to expand this concept the platform and the method that we have developed to list local manufacturers and to find them, to expand it to the rest of the whole country of Sweden. So this is a plan, and the way it works is that instead of us sitting in the very, very south listing manufacturers in maybe the north, it's a very long country, we've started local spook hubs that are all connected to the same platform, but they actually do the listing and finding of manufacturers in their own region. So they become like a regional hub for spook. And what a hub can consist of can vary depending on the resources and what exists in that region. But ideally, we would see that the principal partner is a region or a county. So we can have a partnership directly with them. But we also encourage them to partner up with design industries or clusters or design organizations that are locally. Also preferably some kind of attachment to academia and students who are actually studying or researching in the field of design, architecture, or craft. And then also preferably an institution such as a museum or a design center, because this is the way that we built it up in the south of Sweden. And this really creates, when we have local hubs all over Sweden, we have a vast network of different different partners that we can gather a lot of valuable information from in the development of the platform. And so what we do is mainly the digital platform, which lists local manufacturers. So we've gathered a lot of resources to make that part as autonomous as it possibly can be. So anyone who gets the task to actually do the operational work of listing and finding manufacturers can do it just by reading the handbook and the resources that we give them. The other part, which we've worked a lot on to create this community connected to the platform, is knowledge sharing. And that part will look very different from region to region, depending on what kind of industries they have there and what kind of needs their local designers might need. And for example, in some regions, they're very craft heavy. They have a lot of traditional crafts that are connected to that region. In other regions, they're very industry heavy. So what we've done in southern Sweden is just gathering informative and inspirational examples. We've done portraits of collaborations that have become because of this platform. And we've had a lot of seminars, which is all about knowledge sharing based on needs that have come up from our followers, designers in our region. We've done study visits to connect designers with local manufacturers. We've also initiated projects, such as a project where we connected 10 designers with 10 material researchers, or this souvenir collection where we had an open call where designers could come with suggestions for more locally produced souvenirs from the region. And we've also worked some with the industrial design school in Lund University with a focus on designing for local manufacture. And on top of that, we have a lot of product examples that have come thanks to designers finding local manufacturers through the website. So there's a lot of benefits with this platform because it's sort of a bridge between culture and industry, and it's also a bridge between city and rural areas, because both are gathered in on the same platform, which makes it very interesting for other regions to apply it. Also, it's unique because it lets both traditional craft be on the same platform as heavy industry and innovative industries, which is something we don't see. And it can be anything from large scale to small scale production and focus. And these are the regions that have already signed a contract now that will be launched in the beginning of the next year, which we are very happy. But the road to getting them on board has not been easy. It's been quite long, actually. We've been working since May to get this contract in order. So I just want to share the challenges of this sort of collaboration. Firstly, it's a new kind of economic model because it doesn't cost anything for the manufacturers to be listed, and it doesn't cost anything for the designers to use the platform. So it's actually the hubs that are paying for their membership to become a part of this platform. So this is the new economic model that we can't really lean on anyone else as a reference. We have to make it up completely on our own. Also, we have to have a very rigid framework with clear instructions so that anybody can do it. But we also need to be flexible for growth so that the regional hubs can grow organically based on their specific resources or needs, because some regions are very, very small with only maybe 6 municipalities, while some are huge with over 30, 40 municipalities. And as we sign contracts with counties directly or regions directly, they have a lot of restrictions and demands that we need to apply in this model. And also, it's these things that are the outcome sort of the project, because it might be hard to track what kind of products come up or what kind of collaborations come up. It can be hard to measure the benefits of this project, which I think when you work with cultural and creative industries in general, there's a lot of other kinds of values that are beneficial but hard to measure and showcase in some cases. And that's all I have. I don't know how I'm doing for time, but...
Well, you're almost perfect. You're 1 minute over, so we've got 4 or 5 minutes of questions.
Yeah.
Or comments. Any questions or comments? Petya, do you want to follow up? I'm actually very interested in this thing of you scaling up.
Yeah.
At what point did it suddenly, or what point did it come to you that this was a local project that could be scaled up on a national level?
Well, firstly, we heard it from, because we get a lot of input from our followers on social media. And we have a lot of designers based in Stockholm and Gothenburg that were asking, when is this going to come to our part of the country? And the reason why it was local initially was mainly because we had local funding. So there wasn't a reason for us to look at other regions, because the local funding was connected to mapping just the local industries.
So basically it was a kind of demand-led, where you had given an example, you'd done something, and then there was a demand there, and so you were scaling up according to demand.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very interesting. It's one of my bees in my bonnet. It's one of my big things.
Yeah, but I think it took also the 4 years of being just a local initiative to show that it actually works, and show the benefits and the examples that have come up because of the project. So it was sort of like a trial run or a test bed first. which then led to us getting this funding for scaling it up to the whole country.
Okay, that was a fantastic presentation, fantastic project, very inspiring. I think something that we can all learn from. Thank you very, very much. And we'll now move on to Katya. Okay, Katya, you come in now.
Hi everyone. I will talk about my project called Crafts Journey. So the craft journey includes accelerator that we have, first of all, but I wanted to start with the problem that we are resolving with this project, Craftsman Journey. We see now, I'm from Russia, and we work all over Russia with our project. And we see the big problem in unification of all the cultures and traditions that happened during the Soviet times, where everything was unified into one culture, one Soviet culture. And we lost lots of different traditions. And we all know that Russia is full of different ethnic groups. Different nationalities, about hundreds of them. Yet lots of those traditions were either lost or we will lose them if we don't do something now. So with this Craftsman Journey project, the first thing that we're trying to do is to get back to the times before the Soviet Union, to see what was happening with crafts, with culture, with traditions, and add modern interpretation to these traditions so that the traditions will continue to live. And to do it with each specific ethnic group all over Russia. We started working during the pandemic, when we were all sitting on quarantine, and we came up with this idea that we actually can do an online accelerator program for craftsmen who work in various regions all over Russia. And online format will give us lots of advantages. First of all, we can, while we're all locked down in our houses, we have more time to concentrate on certain stuff. Second, with online format, we can get the best experts in this field to work with craftsmen all over Russia, and doesn't matter how far away they are, they can still work together. Finding time to do that. So what is the first project within our project of Craftsman Journey is Accelerator. It's a 6 weeks online program during which 25 craftsmen work with designers, business coaches, and also the psychologists. So there are 3 types of experts that work with craftsmen during this 6 weeks. What we're trying to do is first to get the traditions that are very deep, they're sitting very deep and unconscious and those craftsmen, to get them out and then to look at them from the modern world point of view, and to help those craftsmen to come up with new products that both incorporate the authenticity, the traditions, and also can be modern and innovative, so that they can go into each house, however modern it is, to the hotel, restaurant, can be put in the middle of the city on some square, for example, and so on and so forth, so that we can first know our tradition, acknowledge them, and use them and in our modern world. So this is the whole idea. We've done for now 1 accelerator during quarantine, and we are in process of another one, finishing another one, second. And we've seen amazing results with those craftsmen who participate in our program. They came up, some of them came up with completely new products, the products that are needed on the market, but that have this traditions authenticity in them. Also, some of the participants, they changed their understanding of tradition, of how to work with tradition. They started working with collaborations, for example, with different craftsmen or craftsmen and designers started collaborating together, creating new products. Some craftsmen who worked with one material before, they started working using several materials, trying to mix them up and see what's going, what will happen with them, and so on and so forth. So various results. And the second accelerator we launched in the same region as the first one, because the region saw the results, saw how much is possible to be done during these 6 weeks. So they asked us to work with more craftsmen in this area. And we are now negotiating with various regions all over Russia to launch this accelerator next year as well. Yeah, I think that's the main idea. And maybe there are some questions that I can answer, so to share what else is interesting about this.
Can I jump in and ask about the psychologists and their role?
Actually, in the beginning, when we were planning the accelerator, we were only thinking about designers and business coaches, which is understandable. Designer can bring innovation, business coach can make it a business, help make it a business. And by some coincidence, 3 of our coaches were also psychologists. And they realized that during our work, sometimes designer will start working with a craftsman and they see some kind of problem, something is not going right, and they can't understand what. So they go to psychologists, psychologists come for the session with this craftsman, and they see, for example, that there is some fear of failure, for example. Designer is not a professional who would understand that there is a fear of failure and how to deal with it. And during one session, the psychologist can deal with this fear and pass the craftsman back to the designer, so designer can continue to work on the spot when they stopped. Then we had some problems, for example, family misunderstandings. For example, like one spouse does not approve of another one of doing crafts. And of course, this creates tension. Of course, this creates lots of problems for the craftsman to continue creating. And psychologists come in, resolve this problem, and so that the craftsman can continue working on what they love to do, on what they want to do. So we realized from our first experience that the role of psychologist is very important, because creative people, they work within their emotions. So the psychological state, the emotions, is very important for the result of the work and for the progress as well. And there is a difference, I think, between creative people working in creative industries and people working in non-creative industries, because the later, they do not, their emotions, their psychological state does not influence that much their work. For example, if you are a financial director somewhere, whether you have a conflict with your spouse doesn't really matter, because on your work, like for your work, it wouldn't really matter. It wouldn't change anything in the results of your work. But while if you are a creative professional, then it will matter, because you won't be able to create. You will, these emotions will stop you from creating. So this is one of the things that we found out from our first accelerator, and we realized it's really important to have such kind of specialists in our team.
Okay, it's interesting. Any other questions?
I had one question. Actually, I was wondering, how do you think, Katya, why regions and municipalities, why they choose to cooperate with you, where they see, where is the problem, and why they are looking for the solution? What is the motivation?
Motivations are different, to be honest. So, for example, I think during the pandemic, the motivation was very simple. The region had allocated budget for the year to work with craftsmen, and they used to work with craftsmen offline. They were doing some kind of seminars, some kind of work, so they could say, here we've spent our money on working with craftsmen, and here the quarantine comes in, and they cannot do that work that they used to do, and they have the budget and they don't know what to do with this budget, and we come with this program, and it's very risky. If without quarantine, nobody would have agreed to do that, because how can you work with craftsmen online? You have to work offline. There is no other possibilities. But then they see our online program, they see us, and they look at their budget that they have to spend. They don't have a choice. Otherwise, they won't be given budget next year if they don't spend it this year. So they go with us and they do this work, and they realize, wow, it works, it's great. So for the second time, they started working with us because they've seen the results. The first time it was very simple, they had to spend their budget.
It's very interesting. We found during the project one thing repeatedly coming up as COVID-19 acting as an accelerator. And, you know, I think COVID is the great accelerator at the moment. In other words, things where people have ideas or things are already starting to happen are now being accelerated by the situation we're in.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Katya, that was wonderful and inspiring. Let's go back to the thing of COVID and how it's influencing things. I've actually, I'm perhaps over-optimistic about how positive COVID is in certain areas in terms of an accelerator. But for example, Anna and Katya, to what extent has COVID also been a problem in terms of the flow of your projects? I mean, you know, Katya, for example, you've explained how you know, basically you wouldn't have had the funding if it hadn't have been for the COVID situation, but you must be facing some issues and problems, nevertheless, you know, while benefiting from, you know, in a certain extent from the situation, you must be coming up against certain problems. I mean, what about, you know, meetings with officials, you know, talking, you know, across regions and so on and so forth? And also your credibility, because, you know, Russia is very much a place where it's personal connection, which is physical rather than, you know, virtual.
Mm-hmm. That's true, but because everybody had to go online, it's not like before we couldn't, we had to go on meetings and meet people offline. But during quarantine, nobody had a choice. So, but everybody had to continue working. Not many people could say, oh, then we'll just wait for a few months and see what happens. So officials continued working, and they started, they find out what Zoom is, they find out what lots of other things was. It was not easy for lots of people, but they had to overcome this. And this is amazing. And actually that allowed me to move from Moscow to a small village and enjoy my life finally, because I didn't enjoy Moscow, and I was staying there because I had to go to these meetings, because I had to continue building my business. But now I can do it in this remote village, being next to the river, next to the forest, and so on. So I'm enjoying it, everything about it, to be honest. So it didn't make it difficult for us, to be honest, at all, because I think several years before that, our team was already prepared somehow for the situation that happened. There were lots of things that we were doing before that helped us to very quickly find out what to do during the COVID times. And we managed to raise the revenue of our business during the COVID. we managed to come up with new projects that are now very popular, even more popular than the projects that we had before, for example. So there are lots of things that were good for us, and I can't even say what was not good for us, to be honest. There's nothing I can remember. If asking, if saying what helped us to prepare for these times, I can tell you there are 4 things. One of them, we already had a remote working team. Because of our work, and we worked for the last 6 years, we worked with small areas all over Russia, remote areas in Russia, developing villages, small cities. And because of that, our team was always in those villages. And it was impossible for us to have an office, for example. We never had an office because it was stupid for us to have an office. We meet once in 3 weeks, once in 4 weeks. Offline. The rest of the time we had to learn how to work online. So when online came during the quarantine, we were already using Zoom for several years. We knew how to work online. So for us, it was very easy. And we enjoyed it a lot because for the first time in the history of our organization, we could meet every day, and every day everyone was online. Before that, we had to schedule these meetings when everybody would come back to those remote villages where we were working, and be able to find time to meet online. And this time, we managed to resolve so many questions that we couldn't resolve, our internal questions before. So we were doing lots of stuff. That was very interesting time for us. So the first is remote team initially. The second reason, we were a horizontal team from the beginning. So not hierarchical, where there is one leader that tells everyone what to do. There are managers who control everyone else, and so on and so forth. We didn't have that. We had a horizontal structure in the beginning. And what it meant for the quarantine times, when we realized that everything has changed, the world has changed dramatically. What happened in hierarchical organizations? People who work for these organizations, they came to the leader, to their chef, and they said, so are we going to have our workplace? Are we going to have our salaries? What will happen? And this puts lots of stress on the leader. So the leader has to change the business, make sure it works in completely different situation. And also there is a stress from employees who are afraid to lose their job or to lose their salaries, and so on and so forth.
Your business is from the start already a social enterprise, isn't it?
Excuse me?
It is a social enterprise.
Yeah, it is a social enterprise.
It's kind of animal, as they say, which makes it special.
Yeah, absolutely. That helped us a lot. So in our situation, because we were horizontal, there was no one leader who resolves all the problems. The team came together, and they didn't ask me as a leader what we should do. They asked all of us, so what are we going to do in this situation? And this leaves all the stress behind. There is no stress. There is just a situation where you, as adult people, come up with ideas what to do in this situation. And it's great. It's amazing when you come together and you just try to resolve it. And also, as Petya said correctly, the third reason why we were prepared for it is because we are a social business, social enterprise. We put our mission first before the business model. And for example, we used to be a touristic agency, a touristic company that organizes tours to remote villages. And this was one of our instruments, how we were working on development on the remote areas. But because our mission is the development of the rural areas, not being touristic agency, we came back to this mission. And we said, okay, we cannot be touristic agency anymore during quarantine. It's impossible. But why we were doing this, why we were using tourism as an instrument? Because we want to develop rural areas. How can we develop rural areas in these circumstances that we are in? And we came up to about 20 ideas. One of them was this craftsman Johnny project, and there were several others that we were implementing, and some of them we are implementing now, some of them we decided to forget about, and so on and so forth. So there are various things that helped us to very quickly change the way our business is going, and to continue follow our mission, and to grow during COVID times, when it was when for most businesses it's something of a surprise, of something strange to do.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. Anna, let's pass on to you and COVID.
Yeah, well, it hasn't really had a great effect on the work itself of connecting these other hubs. We've been able to do that quite well online, deciding or developing the form of collaboration between different regions. It's been a lot of back and forth, which it probably would be even without a pandemic at the moment. But there is two effects that we've seen on our two different target groups, because we're both one target group is of course the designers and creative companies, locally and nationally, and a lot of them have taken a toll because of the pandemic. There's no exhibitions anymore, there's no international fairs, a lot of projects have been put on hold, and a lot of designers and creative companies have lost a lot of projects because of the pandemic, when everything's been put on hold, and also there's no public gatherings or things like this. So a lot of them have had a hard time. At the same time, this project has become even more contemporary, because in Sweden we had a situation in the beginning, in February, March and April, that we ran out of masks and things like this, that were like medical instruments and that medical things that we needed to hospital and things like this, and also publicly, which we had apparently previously ordered from other parts of the world. And when there was a halt in transport, we realized, okay, maybe we should, it would be good now if we had even more local production. So a lot of local manufacturers actually pivoted or changed their manufacturing to better serve hospitals and medical and the medical industry in the pandemic. So the subject of the importance of maintaining local manufacturing has become even more important because of this pandemic.
I have one more question for you, Anna, because I know from our talks that your database linked to the platform can track the interaction, the actual journeys, digital journeys that different people take online. Have you been able to notice that there is more activity now than previously?
Yes, there's definitely more activity since we launched the new version of the website. We've transformed the whole website, but it's been sort of on a lowdown at the moment, since we're waiting to launch these new hubs, and they have quite ambitious communication plans for their launches. So we're looking at a lot more of activity once they launch. And this tracking of the activity is actually one of the important features in order for the regions to be able to report the measured results for the next term of funding, for example, seeing how many actually had had interactions and which companies, industries have got more traction than others, and all kinds of things that actually point towards why this is an important initiative.
So where do you think you'll be in 10 years' time?
Well, we do have a 10-year plan, actually.
Right, okay. That's a good question.
So our goal is to have listed 12 regional hubs within the next 10 years. It's quite a slow process because, as I said, we're trying to make this contract directly with the regions, like the cultural administration at a region or something like that, because that's also a way to make it more long-term. But we know that there's industry in the whole country. Of course, some regions they're very small and there's almost none. So realistically, 12 or 15 is a realistic grasp that we hopefully can collect in the next 10 years. And then we've also said, because right now the platform is quite static, it is what it is. It lists manufacturers and this and this. But we want to develop further on, and we are setting aside a budget for the web development as we go along and gain more insights in the needs of the different regions. And as our user group grows, we're going to get more feedback, and we have always grown organically based on the needs of our target group. So that's something that we hope to do. What, we're not sure yet. We need to wait and see how it develops. But it might be that we use the platform and the network for other things, like maybe we list local or designers all across the country, or maybe it's about listing local waste materials that can be seen as a resource. Since we already have this network built up, there's a lot of potential in developing it for other things as well. So we'll wait and see what ideas we bring forward.
Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, one of the things that you've said, which we found in the project, is the whole thing of COVID accelerating localization.
Yeah.
And I think your project, is a very interesting, wonderful example of many things, but also this movement towards localization, which again, COVID, the accelerator, is pushing forward at an amazing rate.
Yeah.
We've got 4 minutes left. Petya, anything you want to say apart from our thanking the two wonderful case studies, Anna and Katya?
I was just writing and to alert you all that there is a Facebook page of NDPC that you can follow to get the updates on the project, because we still have some events and also important outputs coming up publicly. There are a number of flagships which Signe Adamovic and our team have developed together, and each of them deserves full attention. So just to flag that. We are working on a web resource, we call it, where we try to involve a storyteller and show through images also the 15 of the cases of all these 120, so that you can get inspired by the people and also, of course, read the full reports and get even more.
I just want to thank you all very much, and I look forward to following your work, and hopefully getting to take part of the reports and things.
Definitely. Thank you very much.